Hi, welcome to ACT Prep Day 7. Everybody should have their bell ringer day 7 for today. Either you picked it up in class or you downloaded it from Google Classroom. So our bell ringer for today, again, this is prior knowledge prior to the 8th grade. So pause the video for 5 to 10 minutes, work on the bell ringer, and when you're done, unpause and we will go over the answers. Okay, let's check our answers. A lot of this stuff is really easy, especially if you have a calculator. I know you think I'm talking about a calculator a lot, but it's really an excellent investment to help improve your math scores, not only on the ACT, but just in math classes in general that you're taking. If we look at this first one, you have two negatives here. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So this really becomes negative 58 plus 42. Here, this is where calculators come in handy because when you add and subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator. So this really should be negative 1/6 minus, and when we get a common denominator of 6, we have to multiply the top and the bottom by 2. And so that gives us negative 5/6. This one really has a lot of different ways, and this is why one of the reasons too I suggest you get your own calculator, because calculators handle mixed numbers differently, and you need to learn your calculator. Probably the best one for fractions is that TI-32S, the little $10 one, but it doesn't do as much as obviously a TI-84. So when you do this, one of the problems you run into if you don't change them to mixed numbers is you're going to have to borrow. So if you have 5 3/10 minus 1 31/50, you can see the first problem we have is we don't have common denominators. So when we change this to a common denominator, it's going to end up being 15 over 50 because we multiply top and bottom by 5. But you can't do 15 minus 31. So what we have to do is borrow a whole number from here. And when we borrow a 1 from there, then we're adding 50/50ths here. So this now becomes 65 because we're adding 50 to the top. So 65 minus 31 is going to give us what? 34 50s. 4 minus 1 is 3. This can be simplified. Put it in your calculator. 34 divided by 50. Make sure you hit the fraction, and it simplifies to 3 17/25. The other way is you could have converted both the numbers to improper fractions with a common denominator and then converted. 4 negative times negative is a positive, so 47 times 29, 1,363. Today we're going to talk about factors and least common multiple. Students tend to get these mixed up. Factors are going to be any two numbers you multiply to get another number. They are going to be equal to the number or below. For example, if it's 10, the factors are 1, 2, 5, and 10 because 2 times 5 is 10 and 1 times 10 is 10. When we're talking about factors, we're not looking for fractions, decimals, negative numbers. We're just talking about whole numbers, positive, natural numbers, unless it's otherwise specified, and very seldom have I ever seen it specified. Usually it's when it's square root, like square root of 16 can be plus or minus 4. Find the factors of 12. Now, I have come up with a way, I call it my bookend way, because when you get really large numbers, something like 132, it makes it difficult to find all the factors. So when I do the bookend, I do my bookends first is 1 and the number itself. So they're ending. Nothing's going to go past those numbers. The largest number is 12. The smallest one is 1 because every number has factors of 1 in itself. Then I just count on the number. What comes after 1? 2. Is 12 divisible by 2? Yes. 2 times 6 is 12. Now, what comes after 2? 3. 3 multiplied by what equals 12? Ooh, that's 4. So 3 and 4 are factors. What comes after 3? 4. It's already written down. There's all my factors. And you get going really fast at this rather than going, what times what equals this? Because when you get into bigger numbers, it gets harder. 36, here's a great example. I go 1, 36, because I instantly think of 6 and 6 and 9 and 4. But is 36 divisible by 2? Well, yes, it's an even number. That's 18. I don't think of those factors offhand. What about 3? Here's another one that doesn't easily come to mind. 3 and 12. What about 4? Ooh, yes, I know that's 9. What about 5? Nope. What about 6? Yes, it's 6 times 6. We've bridged both sides. There's all my factors. Makes it really, really easy. Okay, now let's get into least common multiple. And the key word here is multiple. We are not finding numbers that factor out. We are finding multiples of a number. And so you get a multiple by taking a number and multiplying it by 1, then by 2, then by 3, then by 4. Look at 3 here. The multiples of 3 are 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5, 15. 3 times 6, 18. And we can keep going. Those are multiples. So unlike factors, factors will be either the number itself or lower. Multiples are going to be the number itself and higher. If we wanted to find the least common multiple of 6 and 8, you've been doing this. This is like finding a common denominator for fractions when you're adding and subtracting. So if we want to find the least common multiple of 8, we're going to, 6 and 8, sorry, we're going to take 6 and 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30. Now let's do 8s. 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2, 16, 8 times 3, 24. And when we get to 24, something magic happens. We have a common multiple here. And the problem with this can be tedious. And I also have students that do their multiplication incorrect, so they get the wrong common multiple. So this is the long way. A short way is on your TI-84. If you hit the buttons math, and then you arrow over to number, and then it's number 8. It's going to pop up and say LCM and give you a parentheses. And you just put in there 6, 8, and it will spit out the answer. You hit enter, and it will tell you 24. So very, very helpful there, not only for least common multiple problems, but if you have to find common denominators. Now, let's look at our ACT example. What is the least common multiple of 12 and 15? Take a few seconds, see if you can figure it out. Okay. If we do, and again, this is the long way without a calculator. If we do the multiples, we go 12 times 1 times 2 times 3. We do 15, we do 20, and you can see the least common multiple that they share in common is 60. If you're doing this on a calculator, on the TI-84, you're going to say, well, Miss Edwards, it only lets me do 2 numbers. How do I do 3? There's 2 ways. You can do the function LCM of 12 and 15. And whatever that answer is, then turn around and do the LCM of that answer and 20. And that's going to give you the least common multiple. You can also do what's called embedding. So you can do the LCM of 12 comma, and for our second number, I'm going to embed another LCM function, which is the second number will be whatever the LCM is of 15 and 20. You just got to make sure, close this parentheses and close this one in your calculator, hit enter, and you will get 60. Very helpful tool there. Okay, you've got 5 questions. I want you to set your timer for 5 minutes and pause the video, and when we come back, we will check your ACT prep questions. Okay, welcome back. Hope you all did well on that. What are the positive factors of 10? Again, I do the bookends. 1, 10, 1 comes after it, 2. Yes, that's 2 and 5. Oops. The next one's 3. 10's not divisible by 3. Is it divisible by 4? No. So 1, 2, 5, and 10. Now this one's asking for factors. Okay, what numbers multiplied by each other? So you did a lot of this in algebra where can you factor something out? They both have an x, so I know I can factor out an x. It's no longer f and g. Each of these are even numbers, so I can at least factor out a 2. They're at least divisible by 2. So no, I can't, it can't be this one. And so now instead of trying to, figure out all the multiples of 128, 240, blah, blah, blah. What I would do here is start with the larger one. Is 128 divisible by 64? Yes, twice. Is 240 divisible by 64? No. It's not. The answer has to be 16x. Why did I start with 64? Because you could have started with 16 and those would have both been right, but then 64 could have also been right, and you wanted the greater number. So start with the higher number and then work backwards. What is the least common multiple of 20, 30, and 40? Again, you can write it out or you can put it in your calculator, and you're going to get 120. And you actually could leave 20 out here because 40 is a multiple of 20. So if you just found the least common multiple of 30 and 40, it's the same thing. Little shortcut there. Here you've got Jan. Somehow she knows she's having either 6, 8, or 12 classmates, and she is going to order pizza. Well, she wants to make sure everybody gets equal number of slices, there's no leftovers, that nobody's complaining. So basically, this is the least common multiple question here, finding the common denominator. When I look at the numbers, I see that 12 is a multiple of 6. So I really just need to find the least common multiple of 8 and 12, and that is going to end up being 24. 8 times 3 is 24. 12 times 2 is 24. 6 times 4 is 24.
Any staff member that needs a picture taken or a retake, please report to the Student Activity Center at this time.
Not me. Now, the last one, consider all positive integers that are multiples of 10 and are less than or equal to 200. The first thing you have to figure out is how many numbers you have between 10 and 200. And you could do this on your fingers, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. There's 10, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. So there's 20, okay? So we have a total of 20 answers. Now, which fractions of those are multiples of 15? Well, you start with 30. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. There's 6 of them. So it's 6 out of 20, which simplifies to, they're both divisible by 2, 3/10. Hopefully you got them all right. Okay, now it's time for your exit ticket. The exit ticket basically is asking you, what is the least common multiple of 6, 8, and 9? And you're going to have to do all 3 of them because none of them are a factor of the other, or 9 is not a multiple of 6 or 8. So you do have to do it 3 times. Yeah. Either do the calculator twice or you have to write out the multiples of 6, 8, and 9 and find that common one. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me so that you get a 10 out of 10. And see you for the next lesson.